some of Candy's old men's toenails.
Not the toenails.
Are those that really is candy?
Seashells.
No, they're gold doubloons.
They're seashells. They're called. They're referred to as old men's toenails.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
that's what he refers to them.
No, seriously, that's what they are. They're called by people who walk along the beach and find them old men's toenails.
Well, for some reason, my niece and nephew call them gold doubloons, but I don't know.
That's a much nicer, much nicer way of putting it. They look kind of like gold doubloons a little bit, but not as much as they look like old men's toenails. Your description is nicer. My description is more fitting.
Oh my gosh!
But the real description of them is old man's toenails. That's what people that are shell collectors call them.
What were you talking about? We're going to talk at the march and the KKK. Weren't you saying something about?
That might come up.
All right.
The bridge. Oh, you mentioned it, Marty, about the bridge, about the
50th anniversary.
And up on, and there was a billboard. Did you see the billboard?
No.
Right next to the bridge. You know when they had the march across the bridge the other day. They had there's a big billboard up with a picture of Edmund Pettus. I've got to forget what his first name is.
Yeah.
Him in his Civil War uniform, on his horse, and it's a call to people. It's a reach out to people to join the KKK.
When was that billboard up there?
It's up there now.
Oh, what?
It's up there now.
There's advertisement to join the KKK.
Join the KKK and defend white people from all these black scalawags.
And that's up there now.
It's up there now.
And by the way, not for nothing, but George W. Bush was in that march, and then the New York Times X'd out his picture.
He was? No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was. You see, you
50 years ago? 50 years ago?
No. Like last week.
Oh, yeah. He was there. I saw it. I watched the whole thing.
I know, but the New York Times blacked him out in the.
I saw him, and I thought that was great. You know, I'll give.
On the cover of the New York Times.
I'll give George. Well, it was actually in the Washington Post. I watched the film strip, the live broadcast. But I give him a lot of credit about some things. Mm-hmm. He's very good on civil rights. Mm-hmm. He was exceptionally good about doing AIDS in Africa. Working with AIDS in Africa, he was great with that.
By the way, that's 5 o'clock, not 4 o'clock.
Yeah, no. Okay. It's just that Iraq thing that kind of drags him down.
Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3.
Just that Iraq thing that kind of drags him down in people's eyes.
When he followed John Kerry and Hillary Clinton's advice saying that they had women and they had weapons. Well, they both voted for the war.
Does that mean they supported it?
Yes, that's what a vote's all about.
Did they know about the fact? did they know about the fact that they got the information from what was his name?
The guy in 60 Minutes.
Screwball.
Yeah, Screwball. That
That's what they used. And who did they send over to Africa to vet that out? To vet that story out? A guy named Joe Wilson. And Wilson came back and what did he tell the Bush administration? It's a friggin' lie. Yeah. That whole thing's a lie, and they still went forward with it. And they planted the article with what's her name in the New York Times, special gift for her. Mm-hmm. And
the nuclear cake, the yellow cake.
So. Judith, I forget her name. Mm-hmm. And the day that ran in the New York Times, everybody in the Bush administration was out on the Sunday morning shows saying, "See, even the New York Times says it's true, so it's got to be true." It was a great propaganda triumph.
I don't know if that's completely true. Basically, if we're talking about intervening in Iraq, circa 2002, we had just experienced an attack where 3,000 of our own citizens
that had
were
what
killed.
To do with Iraq?
It had a lot to do with Iraq because Bush came out with what's called the Bush Doctrine, which means if you're a state sponsor of terrorism, what dovetails nicely with the Iranian issue, because Iran is the absolute ayatollah of state-sponsored terrorism. These are the ones that we're supposed to be negotiating with right now.
And we are.
But he said that if you're a state-sponsor of terrorists or if you're a terrorist, we're going to come after you. And that was the reason they did it.
And let me make a statement, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you feel that I'm wrong. But basically what Benjamin Netanyahu told the Congress and what he wants everybody to do is to do whatever necessary to stop Iran, including bombing, including attacking it.
Oh yeah, all options are on the table. And
do you think that's what he really wants? He wants us to attack Iran?
No, the good thing about Israel is they fight their own battles.
No, they don't. They didn't. They had nothing to do with Iraq. They had no part in that.
Yeah, Iraq wasn't necessarily attacking. That was our idea to go into Iraq. But Israel, they're not asking for men. They're not asking for troops. They're just asking to not make a really stupid deal with a bloodthirsty mullahs in Iran.
And Benjamin Netanyahu is not in favor of us attacking Iran.
No, if there needs to be any attacks, like taking out their nuclear installations
or bombing the cities,
I don't know. Generally
like
speaking,
like they did Baghdad, where they dropped the bunker buster bombs in the center of a populated capital of a sovereign country.
Well, actually, it's interesting because you almost said carpet bombing, which I think you were trying to get into, but basically,
no, they were bunker buster bombs. They were bombs that were specifically designated for certain buildings.
Yeah.
But you don't drop a bunker buster bomb in the middle of a city and expect there not to be thousands of casualties.
Yeah, casualties.
Civilian casualties.
I understand that, and that's unfortunate. But civilians were never targeted during.
Is it Christian?
I think defending yourself is absolutely Christian. Yes, I do.
Including dropping bombs on people?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, in World War II, we dropped a number of bombs on a number of people. And in that case, actually, civilian populations like, say, Dresden, firebombing Tokyo, that was, I believe, warranted. And I'm glad that
Jesus would say yes.
I would say when you talk about the Christian theology about turn the other cheek, and if someone slaps you on your left cheek, you can turn the other.
Yeah.
And it says, thou shalt not commit murder.
Well,
there has never been an implication from Christ that you should not defend yourself. As a matter of fact, he said that the nation doesn't have the sword for nothing. And those who came to him, soldiers.
Turn the other cheek has no merit?
Turn the other cheek has merit on an individual interpersonal relationship.
Oh, but you're qualifying that as only on a one-on-one thing.
Exactly. So if you have a situation, let me show you. For example, if you have a situation like this, where people are being lit on fire, if you have a situation like, let's see.
Well, you can put all your stuff away because your stuff's not allowable. The only visual allowable is this.
Well, that's censorship.
Put all your stuff away. I'm censoring you.
That's themselves on fire?
No. Okay. That was a very nice 22-year-old Jordanian pilot that flew over ISIS, and his plane became disabled, and he crash landed, and he was taken out of a marsh, and they burned him. These here are two homosexuals that ISIS is taking and throwing off a building. Basically, we all know, of course, the 21 Coptic Christians that were beheaded.
Yeah.
Let me just see here.
Well,
I don't have that visual, but I think it was in.
I've seen them all.
So, no, I'm just making the point. This is making my point. Here's my point. From a Christian point of view,
I'm telling you to put all this stuff away.
From a Christian point of view,
this is the only visual.
Okay, I disagree with that. But from a Christian point of view, when you see evil like this, or in the case of World War II, when you see evil as represented by the Nazis, where 6 million Jews were carted off and killed just because of their political persuasion.
Actually started with the gays. They killed them first, and the gypsies.
As a matter of fact, that's why that green triangle or that pink triangle is kind of representation of homosexuals. Yeah. Like they had Jews where the Star of David, they had gays where pink triangles.
Yeah.
So in the face of this type of evil, from a Christian perspective, I think there's this theology or philosophy of a just war. That as Christians, though individually we should turn the other cheek, though individually we should, not seek vengeance, that we are, if we're empowered to defend innocent life, we by all means should. And I believe that's what we're doing.
See, that's Old Testament. I don't agree with that at all.
Well,
that's not Jesus. That's Old Testament.
I couldn't disagree with you more, because theologically, Jesus said, and it's in the Sermon on the Mount, he said the following: I did not come to abolish the law of the prophets, but I came to fulfill. So basically, Jesus isn't abolishing the Old Testament, but he's fulfilling it. And I'll give you two examples.
There's a big jump from disagreeing with it to abolishing it.
Okay, here's an example. Jesus said, it talks about like the letter and the spirit of the law. Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, he said, you have heard that it was said you should not commit murder. But I say unto you that if any man is angry with his brother, or calls his brother raka or empty head, it's like he's committed murder. And here for males, this is a really hard one.
To your point, in Hebrew there are like 40 different varieties of the word murder. Kill.
Well, but the point is that you can't say
there are some that are allowable.
Okay. Here's the point. It isn't that the Old Testament, that was a mean, nasty God who's like that angry dad that was never happy. And in the New Testament, you have this really happy, nice Jesus that, anything goes and, is a real patsy.
Not everything goes, but
it's not.
A loving, forgiving God.
Well, I believe that you have the loving, forgiving God in the Old Testament, so loving and so forgiving that he allowed his own son to die on a cross to pay the price for our sins. And you have the same thing in the New Testament with Jesus Christ, who, if you have a Trinitarian approach to theology, they're in essence the same being.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Right. But the point is that from a Christian point of view, Jesus never expected us to just roll over in the face of just absolute, utter depravity. As a matter of fact, if we have it in our ability to defend against things like this, or for your example in World War II against Nazism, it is unchristian not to. That would be my perspective. There are other points in the Christian, like the Quakers and humanity and things like that don't necessarily agree. Yeah. But that's my point.
Point taken, but I disagree with you. I'm going on record as disagreeing with you. And to make a leap from Adolf Hitler and what he did, rolling over country after country after country, and trying to shed the same light on a guy named Saddam Hussein, that just doesn't wash. They're very different one from the other. Very different. In fact, Saddam Hussein was a good counterweight. He was our ally for a reason. He was a counterweight to Iran, because in the war between Iran and Iraq, we sided with Iraq. We gave him all those weapons of mass destruction that eventually, disintegrated, because there's a very short shelf life on those things. But we sided with Iraq against Iran because Iraq was a counterweight to Iran. And as long as Saddam Hussein was in power, Iran was a much weaker country. By taking out Saddam Hussein, we actually emboldened Iran. We did them a huge favor and did ourselves a huge disfavor.
Well, I don't disagree with that. As a matter of fact, when George H.W. Bush had his nice little war, I think it was like 1990 or something like that.
Over Kuwait.
Kuwait.
Where the Bush administration said, go into Kuwait. And as soon as they went into Kuwait, they said, "Oh, what are you doing in Kuwait?" And they attacked.
Well, I don't know about the Bush administration telling Saddam Hussein to go into Kuwait.
They took a benign position on that.
Really?
They didn't say don't go. They didn't say.
Okay. Well, be that as it may,
Kuwait.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
But for discussion purposes, basically George H.W. Bush put against a great coalition that went in and expelled them from Kuwait.
Yes.
But didn't go on and finish the job in Baghdad, and like Schwarzkopf wanted to do.
Yeah.
And many have speculated because of what you're saying. Geopolitically, it provided a counterweight to Iran.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because what you want to talk about today is, if Iran is such a lovely, peace-loving country that just wants to have nuclear power for medical uses and so forth, why do they need to have a counterweight? We don't have a counterweight to, say, Ireland, do we? We don't have a counterweight to, say, Canada, do we? No, because they're, peace-loving, rational countries. Not so the Iranians.
Is it fair to say that if we took out Iran, there would be more ISISes springing up? I mean, that's what happened because of Iraq.
Yeah, that is one of the
Saddam
most.
Hussein was very heavy-handed on
Al
Qaeda and all those other terrorists.
Yeah,
he was very heavy-handed on them. He fought them.
Well, a lot of Iranians.
So did Mubarak.
As opposed to the lie that he was friends with Al Qaeda.
That's a classic progressive liberal thought pattern, and here it goes. If we're nice to them, they won't burn us alive. If we're nice to them and understand, they won't throw gay people off of towers. And that's just a bankrupt philosophy. That's a lot like Gitmo. If we only closed Gitmo, those mean, dastardly terrorists would leave us alone. And it's just ridiculous.
Doesn't attacking Iraq and the consequences from that throw a little pall on your claim that attacking Iran would be somehow better?
No, and I'll give you 3 examples why.
You're absolutely wrong.
Well, let me give you my examples, and then you tell me I'm wrong.
The other one is stupider.
Okay, here's a stupid thought. A stupid thought is what you're talking about, saying if we only just left these people alone, they wouldn't attack us. And here are 3 quick examples.
We keep the sanctions on them.
You know who Klinghoffer was?
Sanctions.
Do you know who Klinghoffer was?
Jan Klinghoffer was thrown off his boat or something like that.
And why did they throw him off?
Because he was Jewish.
Okay. And do you remember the attack on the World Trade Center circa 1993?
I thought you were going to say
2001.
Because we were talking before you got here about the conspiracy theory that on the day that the World Trade Center was struck, every Jew that worked there called in sick.
Yeah, okay.
I don't remember 1993.
Have you heard that?
No.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard a lot of...
It's pretty stupid, right?
Ridiculous.
Thank you.
So what happened in 1993?
In 1993, these whacked out Islamic terrorists
the guy that looked like Santa Claus
drove a bomb into the basement of World Trade and blew the thing up.
Yep.
And then in 2001, but the common denominator, all of that was before Gitmo. All of that was before we did mean things, and it's our fault. It's our fault. You know, I think the American people, by and large, are kind of sick and tired of the left progressive mindset that these terrorists are doing these hideous things because of something that we did. It's our fault. And no better was that example than at the prayer breakfast, at the national prayer breakfast, where our president got up and said, lest we get on our high horse, we need to realize that there were crusades and there were Jim Crow laws and there was, I don't know, witch burnings or whatever it is.
Which of course means nobody's perfect.
No, what it means is he's trying to say that all this terroristic nonsense is our fault. Blame America first. We're the bad guys.
That's an incredible leap of insanity.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. It is a leap of insanity to claim that, and that's what our president did.
Your claim that that's what he was doing is a leap of insanity.
So when the president says, lest we get on our high horse, and he cites the Crusades, and he cites Jim Crow law, isn't that making some type of a moral equivalent to burning people alive and throwing homosexuals off buildings?
Yeah, I'm telling you, the Ku Klux Klan never burned anybody alive, and they're Christians.
No, but aren't they?
Right.
The Ku Klux Klan never burned anyone alive?
I'm asking you to agree with me, when obviously you won't, because they did.
No.
They were Christians.
Okay, but here's the difference.
How are these? We've got Ku Klux Klan in our country.
Okay.
We've got it's gaining a little bit of power again. How are these people that do this any different than the Ku Klux Klan, which burns people and hangs people, and tars and feathers people?
Okay, I'll answer your question.
Okay.
You answer the question. Here's the answer.
The Ku Klux Klan, go right ahead.
Here's the question. First of all, the Ku Klux Klan, I don't even know if it even exists anymore, but as far as lynchings and burns of them.
And the proof of that is that billboard up in Selma, next to the bridge.
See, what you're doing, I'm telling you.
We're starting. Hey, Dave, are we taping?
I think he said we're rolling. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I set my timer.
Okay, so we're 15.
Okay.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. Well, let's get.
Okay, what? You asked the question. I was going to answer it.
Finish your answer off, and then we'll start doing the show.
To make a moral equivalency to the Crusades or the Ku Klux Klan to what's going on now with Islamic terrorists is a very dangerous thing.
Why?
Because it causes us to have not engage these people to much like. This guy right here, Neville Chamberlain.
Yes.
Neville Chamberlain.
He
was in England, and he was faced with the same hideous things we see now with the Nazis. And you know what he did? He rolled over. Not unlike the appeasement that we see in this picture right here with Barack Obama when he didn't think that the mics were on, talking to Vladimir Putin's butt boy, was holding the job until he came back there saying, after the elections, I will have a lot more freedom to make deals with you. Okay. I think no one less than Mark Twain probably said it right.
Okay, we're not going to let you filibuster, but you got one more minute.
Okay, good. I can get it done in 30 seconds.
Bingo.
He said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And that's what we're seeing here, because we were once before faced with basically godless tyranny, much to what you see here, and yet, because of Neville Chamberlain and some others, we didn't address it initially. And that caused World War II. Weakness in the face.
Done. Sorry.
Weakness in the face of evil is much like an appeaser.
You're going over.
Who feeds the crocodile in hopes
if this is a debate,
that
you are overtime. No, because you're going past his minute.
An appeaser who feeds a crocodile hoping he will eat him last. That was Winston Churchill that says that.
Can I just say, aren't there certain religions, though, that do look down upon gays?
Oh, yeah.
No, yeah.
And they're Christians, aren't they?
No, it's interesting from a Christian point of view. Let's take prostitution.
Okay.
Let's go with gayness first. That's what we're talking about. You're trying to circumvent us onto another. You're trying to sidestep. Let's talk about gays and Christian attitude towards gays.
Okay, I would say
keep it focused.
Christian gay people are eternal souls for whom Jesus died. Yeah. They are beloved. Yeah. Their sin is no better or worse than anyone else. As a matter of fact, the second example I was going to give you from the Sermon on the Mount.
It's a sin to be gay?
I would say that, okay. Well, even worse than that, you ready for what the Bible talks about sin?
No, I want to hear what you say.
Okay.
I want your opinion.
What I say is sex outside of marriage is not the ideal. That's what I say.
Not the ideal and sin are a little bit different from one another.
Well, here's what Jesus said. He says, a new commandment I give to you that you should not commit adultery. Or said, you have heard that you should not commit adultery. But are you ready for this? This is our Jimmy Carter moment. Because the Bible actually says that even if you look on a woman to lust for her in your heart, it's as if you've committed adultery.
I remember the Playboy article.
Yeah, okay. I just buy for the articles as well.
Okay, I do too.
Okay, so from the Christian perspective,
you gotta let me spring this on you because this is the notes I took from that I did 2 Basil Budakat shows over the weekend with. About Benjamin Netanyahu's speech in front of the House and Senate, at least the neoconservative portion of it. And so I'm giving these to Marty as a parting gift because Marty's, this could be worth something someday. Basil didn't autograph it, but I can get him to put his paw print on it if you'd like. But this is I wanted you to comment from this quote from the Bible. If I say John 14:27. You're not going to be able to narrow that one down.
No,
Marty's a divinity student. He knows the Bible. He can quote it probably from Genesis.
No.
I've
got a half dozen verses that I've quoted that I use to leave the impression of being a super spiritual person.
You do know a lot of stuff about the Bible, though.
Well,
you're a historian when it comes to the Bible.
Okay.
You may not agree with me on it. We may have disagreements about it, but you certainly know a lot more.
Well, the interesting
passages.
The interesting thing, you can drive down Main Street in Ridgefield, and there's probably 6 different churches. Yeah. Each one has a little bit different take on the same sacred text, which is the Bible. So that's not all that unusual.
Yeah, and then you have Judaism and Islam, which respect Jesus as a great scholar, have all the respect in the world for him. The only difference is they don't ascribe to him being the Son of God. Other than that, they're right on. They have a lot of respect.
I would say, in light of what we're seeing every time we turn on the television, I would say that Muslims and Jewish people have a little bit different. It isn't quite a subtle difference.
I'm just telling you what the Talmud and the Quran say about Jesus.
So if these men are throwing this man off the top of a building for being gay, and that's because they're Muslims, or
they're Muslims
because they're nuts, not because they're Muslims. Because they're just like KKK members, except under a different religion.
So you're saying in this article, has a little blurb underneath that says they're throwing him off for being gay, but
correct.
If a religion believes that being gay is evil, isn't that just as bad?
I don't think so.
Aren't you kind of one off the building?
Aren't you kind of giving them a pass on doing something?
It's kind of like looking at a woman and committing adultery. It's like the same thing.
Yeah.
I would say.
The funny thing about the Bible says a lot about stoning women to death. That it's in the scriptures. It's holy. Do you agree with it or not?
I do not. I do not agree with stoning women caught in adultery. I do not agree with throwing homosexuals off of buildings. I don't agree with that.
Okay.
And luckily for me, neither did Jesus. Because actually, when you bring up that issue of stoning a woman caught in adultery, it's a classic biblical story.
Absolutely.
Where Jesus, went down. I think we talked about it earlier and said, "He was without sin, cast the first stone."
Great story.
So from that point of view, Christianity is is, but here's the crux of it,
That's
though.
what makes Christianity what it is. Very different from what it was.
Yeah, but sometimes,
the rabbis.
sometimes you can take this concept, which I think you do, which is Jesus has a boys will be boys mentality.
Not at all.
Anything goes, do whatever you want.
That's not what I say
Divorce doesn't cause problems. Adultery doesn't cause problems. Homosexuality, whatever floats your boat.
That is so twisting my words, it's unbelievable. That is so twisting my words.
I don't.
Totally twisting my words.
Okay.
Your leap of faith goes from, maybe not from A to Z, but certainly from A to K, let's say.
Maybe it's 2 plus 2 equals 59.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, here you go. Okay. So here's your biblical quotation, and it has to do, in my opinion, it has to do a lot with fear and how we're driven by fear into doing some crazy things, and sometimes driven by fear into following behind leaders that lead us down the primrose path of attacking another country out of fear of what might happen. Quote, "Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid." John 14:27.
Okay.
I guess what I'm reading into that, and it might be very different than what you read into it, what I read into that is that you have to be very careful about paranoia and fear that's based on gut instinct rather than on rational thought. I mean, fear is a good thing. It keeps us alive.
Yeah.
It's built into us.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, people, and these are people across the political spectrum, will use fear as an inducement. I'll give you a good liberal example. Karl Rove is killing. Karl Rove is horrible, horrible, horrible. And what's the follow-up to that? Send us money.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's the one who told Stewart
Republicans
the
do
ham.
Ham.
That's who it was. Yeah. And Karl Rove.
The other guy's the turtle. Yep. Karl Rove's the ham.
Yeah, that's it. And the Republicans have. Name me some of the people the Republicans use as whipping boys as in their attempt to.
Harry Reid.
There you go.
Pelosi. We have to pass Obamacare so we can know what's in Obamacare.
Which wasn't the truth.
No, it's a quote. You want me to get it for you?
No.
I can get it right here.
No.
That's why we have to pass this law so we can find out what's in it. A quote. Don't test me on this. It's there.
Okay, so you can find it for me, I'm sure, somewhere in some article.
Article schmarticle. It's a video. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
Along with Obama saying there are 57 states. It's on YouTube. Yeah. I know it doesn't fit your narrative of how geniuses all these people are.
And I gave you a complete explanation of that. We won't go into it. There are 57 primaries in the Democratic Party. 50 primaries. There's a caucus in Texas along with the primaries. You have Guam, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. Stop me when I get to 57. Guam. Okay, that's 54 so far. Puerto Rico. There's the U.S. Citizens abroad. It adds up to 57, and that's what he was referring to.
You know the beautiful thing about the day and age in which we live is everyone out there in your vast viewing audience has one of these right within arm's reach. And you just click on YouTube and go Obama, 57 states, and you watch the video for yourself. Or you go Pelosi, we have to pass Obamacare so we can know what's in Obamacare, and you watch the video with your own eyes. That's the beauty of where we live. It's a wonderful thing.
What I'm curious about this, Marty, is that everybody said, it's such a huge bill, it's so complex, it's 2,000 pages long. I missed a couple of episodes of American Idol and read the bill, so I knew it was in the bill. So why didn't you? Why didn't you read the bill? Everybody said, nobody ever read it. The people in Congress that actually wrote the law didn't read the law. You made all these incredible claims.